Hey everybody. Today I'm gonna go over kind of the next steps in your cartooning unit. A lot of you have turned in your cartoon sketch of yourself, and overall those are looking pretty good. Some of you really challenged yourself and chose something um, really challenging, so that's good for you. Those are extra cool. For the next step, you've got to take your cartoon self and somehow make a little story out of it, and then turn that into just a one-page comic. Um, and it should be complete story. So I'm going to go over just kind of those steps and have a draw along sort of thing. I'm going to kind of do a voiceover so you can kind of know my thoughts as I'm working, and I hope it's helpful to you to see how to lay it out. There are several ways to do this. For painting students on your final project, when you're ready to move to the final one, you should draw it out on watercolor paper or something hardy that you could use paint on. And for my drawing students, you can use whatever paper you feel is necessary or whatever tools you feel are necessary to draw it. Aside from traditional just drawing it out, I'm also going to upload a couple of demos of me working on Photoshop, showing how you can use Photoshop to make a comic book also. That's not a requirement. That's for those of you that are really interested in still learning about the different tricks for making artwork and utilizing professional tools that are available to you for free and at home. If you've got a computer that is a pretty hardy computer, Adobe Photoshop is free for you. You just get on Adobe Cloud and download it, and you can open it and use it for the rest of the school year. So I will kind of go over that stuff with you, and then you can make your comic page. Okay? Good. So, quick recap. Last time I did some self pictures in the style of Charles Schulz's Peanuts, and I'm going to use that today to work on the current project. So before I actually start drawing my comic out, I need to make sure that I have a story set in place. So I'm going to take just a couple of minutes here and kind of set out my story. Remember that the story has to have a setting, where is it happening, what time period, etc. A plot, which is basically setting and what's happening. It's got to have characters, it's got to have some sort of conflict, a problem, and then a resolution in order to be a complete story. And that can happen in just a couple of panels. It regularly does with like comic strips in newspapers. Okay, in the next section here, what I'm doing is storyboarding, which is deciding what's going to go in each panel and how am I going to lay out those panels, how am I going to show my story. And you should recall or refer back to the PowerPoint presentation where I show how filmmakers use different framing techniques. Some of my pictures here I've decided I need to zoom in on. For example, a shot of him waking up, I'm going to show his eyes because that's what's important. He's going to notice an alarm clock, so I'm going to zoom in on the alarm clock. I'm not going to draw the whole room to show the alarm clock. There are other shots that are going to be further back, like that where the setting is important, like him leaving the house and traveling to go to school. And so those aren't going to be close-ups, those are going to be further back. I have to decide how many panels I actually need to tell my story. So I count them out. I decide this is necessary for a picture, I can skip over that detail. And there might be some back and forth on this. You can see that I'm using my eraser sometimes. Framing your shot is kind of important. None of this is finished drawing. This is me doodling pretty fast to get an idea as to what panels are going to be most important. If there's text, what I'm going to put in that, and what order they go in, and if I am achieving all of the parts of the story. Do I show the setting? Do I show the plot? Do I show the conflict? Is there resolution in the end? And if I can determine all of those things, then I know I've got a pretty solid story set, and I have a good storyboard plan as to where to go from here. And I'll be ready to start my finished drawing at that point. Okay, so now I'm going to refine the drawings that I just did in the storyboard. Right now I'm separating out my page according to the panels that I decided I needed when I did my storyboarding. For this comic, I'm keeping them pretty regular size. Since it's peanut style, a lot of the times the panels are all the same size. And I don't have a ruler out, but I'm showing that any straight edge will work. A lot of times when I'm drawing, if I don't have a ruler close by, I'll just grab something like the edge of a book, and I'll use that. But I am trying to be a little bit methodical about spacing, and I'm putting a little space in between my boxes too, because that's traditional for comic book style, and I'm just kind of measuring those out. Of course, it's better to have a ruler, but I'm showing just work with what you have. I know everybody has different things at home, so we're just doing what we can. Alright, I'm using my fingers to do measurements quite a bit just to get a pretty good idea that my boxes are going to be about the same size, and I'm going through there. I left a little space at the top in case I wanted to do a title panel as well. And from here, I'm going to take my storyboard sketches. You can see I've got them off to the side there where I can reference them. And I am just trying to refine them. I'm basically doing the same drawings but better. I'm taking a little bit more time on each of them, and I am making sure that I have all of the important elements in there. Right now I'm trying to make it obvious that this person is waking up. I had to move my text because it looked like maybe they were laughing or something instead of yawning. I have that zoomed in, and I am just trying to show the most important things. I decided to change the type of clock that I was using from my previous drawing, but it's still zoomed in on a clock. And this is all still in pencil, so I can easily make changes as I need to. I won't add ink or anything until I'm pretty sure the drawings are basically what I want them to look like in their final form. Draw it light until you've got it right. At this point, I'm also putting in and plugging in text dialogue, and that's part of the picture, so I need to determine where those things go as well. Having the storyboards right there next to me really helps me to have this planned out and to reference. Even if the drawings weren't perfect, I have a pretty good vision of what I want to go in each box here. And I might make some adjustments. I made a couple of adjustments to this panel. And that's fine. It still is going to address everything. So in this next panel here, I'm actually going to reference my original drawing, which is where I got the idea for the comic in general. I thought if I am going to do a picture of myself riding a skateboard, I have to have some reason that I'm riding my skateboard. So I came up with a story. Why would I be riding my skateboard? Oh, I must be trying to go somewhere. Where am I trying to go? Well, maybe I'm going to school. What could my conflict be? Oh yeah, everybody's lived this. At some point, you're late for school. You are in a rush. And so I decided that would be my conflict, and I actually made the story backwards from the picture in that regard. But what is kind of the point, the resolution to this whole story? So I have my character rushing to get to school. The alarm didn't go off. Oh no, I'm late, I'm rushing to get to school. I get to school, nobody's there. Now, I come trudging back into the house. Little sister's sitting there watching television. Says, you did it again, huh? And I reply, just shut up and give me the remote as we turn on some Saturday morning cartoons. So in this case, the resolution really is just the pun of the joke. I wasn't actually late. It was all for nothing. But that's a complete story in just a couple of panels on one page. It could be more epic than that, but even a simple story would suffice for this. If you'd like to do more one page, it's okay. So after you've finished drawing in your refined drawing of your comic book, you've planned it out, you've been meticulous, it looks as good as it can be in pencil, then it would be time to color it. Now, if you're a painting student and you've drawn this out on watercolor paper, you'll want to watercolor it before you add any ink. So you've done your pencil drawing and everything, then you'll go over with watercolor paint, do a good job with it. You know at this point how to paint well with watercolor. Let it dry and come back to it later and ink it with pen to make those pencil lines show up better. If you're a drawing student, you could dive straight into pen and ink after the pencil drawing is done. I like to do a pencil drawing and then go over my pencil lines with ink. However, you could do other things as well. You could use colored pencil. Typically, if I am going to use ink, I am going to keep that for the very end. The one exception to that is if I am going to paint it digitally. If I'm going to paint digitally, then I typically ink first, so it's just a black and white image, and then I save it as a black and white image and import it into a computer, and I do my coloration digitally. And I'll put up a video for those of you that are shooting for the stars and really want to see how professional comic illustrators do their work, and the same sort of tools, and get to try that. So I'll have a video up for that also. At this point, I just really want to see what you come up with. This is basically the last big assignment that I feel like we can do this year. So please do a good job on it. I really enjoy seeing students that are excelling in this. And I've seen some pretty good comics so far. I'm really excited to see what you come up with. Please let this be something fun for you. I'm going to set the due date out a little bit further so that you have time to do it and to do it well. If you'd like to bounce ideas off me, you're welcome to email or whatever. It doesn't just have to be at the time of a final submission. So yeah, just email with questions or whatever, and I'll try to keep uploading content for you. Good. Yeah. I miss seeing everybody face to face, but I hope this is still meaningful to you in your education. And I hope some of you take the techniques and things that I'm trying to show you and the characteristic attributes that I'm trying to grow in you, that you'll just continue on. You'll be self-perpetuated learners, and you'll be successful at everything you do. So let's show some grit, and let's push strong here right at the end. Alrighty.